while your day is winding down. They're just getting started. This is South Coast Tonight with Chris McCarthy and Marcus Farrow. They've got you covered on all the news of the day, from local issues to politics on both sides of the aisle. This is the place where the movers and shakers come to be heard, to listen, and where they're held accountable. This is South Coast Tonight on WBSM.
Good evening. Welcome to South Coast Tonight. I'm Marcus Farrow. 508-996-0500 is how you can get on the program. We'll also take your messages on the WBSM app. Looking at some of the app chat messages. Let's see. Not a criticism of the sheriff. It was an issue he's working to address, but wondering how the decision was made where inmates are housed and how it's made. I think that's an interesting conversation, about like how inmates are housed and all of that in the process of doing that. I mean, one of the reasons why Ash Street exists as it does, and they're not able to just move everybody over from Ash Street to Dartmouth, is right now that there are inmates that require single cell accommodations, either for specific reasons, maybe there's some issues that may be gang related, or, something with that person's particular predicament, or maybe a condition that they have that requires them to have a single cell housing. And so maybe it's mental health, whatever. And so they can't just they don't have the capacity at the Dartmouth House of Correction to pick those guys up and drop them in the Dartmouth jail without making that accommodation. What Sheriff Paul is saying is that they discovered by those two specific units, I think that were where the disturbance took place. They can basically sort of retrofit them to have locks and toilets so that they're single cell accommodations, so that those 96 inmates can move from Ash Street to the Dartmouth House of Correction. And he's talked about the advantages of that. Obviously, there's the fact that Ash Street, the fact that Ash Street, obviously costs more money. There's a few people using, relatively a few people using a massive space, and the cost, the cost of heating and maintenance and all that 138-year-old building, 130-something-year-old building. It's an old building. It's arguably the oldest. I think it actually is the oldest operating jail in the country. It might be one of those things like where New Bedford is the oldest. New Bedford has claim to the oldest operating elevator in the country at City Hall. I don't know if you've ever been to City Hall. You go into New Bedford City Hall, there's that old elevator that has an operator and all that. It's pretty cool. Honestly, it's pretty cool. But they say that they've got the oldest operating elevator, but I think there's a building in San Francisco that makes that claim too. So I don't know if there's another situation which Ash Street is Like, they say they're the oldest operating jail, but there's some other jail somewhere in America that says they are. But I'm pretty sure it's Ash Street. Ash Street was the original jail that Ash Street was built on. Was originally the original jail was there when John Quincy Adams was president, and which is like early to mid 1800s, and the Ash Street Jail as it stands today was built in 1888. Was it Grover Cleveland that was president then? I think it was. I think that was Grover Cleveland's second term, because I think it was McKinley. Well, a second non-consecutive term, right? Because it was Grover Cleveland, Benjamin Harrison, McKinley. Then Grover Cleveland again, right? And then I think McKinley, and then McKinley got shot, and that's when Teddy Roosevelt became president. I think he became president in 1901. So, not that that really matters or is relevant to the conversation. That's just me sort of going on about the Ash Street Jail. But anyway, wants to relocate the Ash Street Jail. He thinks it's going to bring in it'll be easier for programming, bringing in officers and all of that. That's his, that's his rationale behind it. That's his rationale behind retrofitting the locks and all that. There are inmates that do require single cell accommodations. We know that. That's why Ash Street exists in the first place. That's why it still exists in the first place. But he thinks that he believes that moving them, he can create that single cell accommodation in Dartmouth and move them over, and it'll be a lot easier for the operations of the jail, and it'll be a lot more beneficial to the mission that he's trying to do over there. So 508-996-0500. Good evening. Hello.
Hey, Marcus.
Hey, what's up?
Not much. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. So, I don't know. It just seems to me like he just let them riot.
Well, what do you mean by that?
Well, there's been this weird movement in the country where there's like this stand down policy, because we've been seeing riots across the country, and it has been policy for people to say, like, stand down, don't do anything. So it's just really confusing to me when I see another situation where it's just like, oh, we didn't hurt anybody, so everything's cool now.
Well, what should they have done instead? They didn't really stand down, right? I mean, they gathered, like, They didn't do anything. Well, and that's what they're all like, giving each other high fives because they didn't do anything. Well, they were able to end. I think the rationale is they're able to end the situation without anybody getting hurt. But I guess what could they have? What could they have done instead?
Well, I have the same question with riots across the country, right? Like when you watch people burning buildings down, and you ask yourself the same question. It's like, well, what should they have done? So I'm just confused on, because I don't want violence. Like I really don't want them to go in there and just like sick dogs on people and stuff.
Right.
Like, that's not what I'm thinking in my head. But alternatively, I'm like, well, do you just like let them do it and then you give each other high fives, like, yeah, we did it, boys, and then $200,000 later, it's like, all right, awesome.
Well, I think it's one of these things that, stuff like that is sort of par for the course in prison. Sometimes inmates, especially, I guess, what the sheriff said is some of those inmates were charged with some particularly serious crimes and may have had a proclivity to do stuff like this. Sometimes this stuff happens, and if you can get out of the situation with only property damage, without inmate or officer safety being jeopardized, more generally, or people being hurt, that's probably the best case scenario.
all right. So let's say they were aggressive and like went in. Like, what kind of hurt are we talking about?
Well,
like,
I mean, he said, there's. I think I think it's fair to say that an inmates can be very resourceful, right? Given, especially when it comes to making some type of weapon, right? And so if they wanted to go in there and be combative, right, there was a lot of debris and, probably there was a lot of debris and things that could be used or could be fashioned into some type of weaponry.
It just sounds like it's not like they were going to go up in there and like shoot all the inmates down.
Well, that's the point. But that's the point. So what are they going to? They're going to go in and they're going to what? Like melee them? They're going to get into this like combat. Are they going to? If they're not going in with guns, right? They're not going to go in and shoot them, right? You don't want to.
Right.
There's 100. Especially you've got 70 people in there. 20 of them are the ones that are being disruptive. All of those 20, while they're engaging in behavior that is obviously wrong at the moment, haven't been convicted of the thing that they're being charged with either. So are we going to go in there and shoot them all to death? Like, you can't do that either.
No, that's kind of what I'm curious about. Like, if they did go in, like, what would the dogs do? It's not like they would like shred them to pieces. They're trained. That's what the dogs are for. They're to go in there and like scare the bleep out of you, and that's the whole point of having scare tactics, to go in, and it's not like, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm cynical and I just don't care if somebody got hurt in that situation, because they're in there for a reason. They're destroying property, and I just myself, I just kind of don't care if somebody got hurt.
Right, but the sheriff does it. It's like literally his job to care, right? He has to. His job is the custody and control of the inmates, right? The care, custody, and control of the inmates.
And they're going to take advantage of that because they know that he's not going to do anything.
Be that as it may. I mean, I don't know if they're going to take advantage of it.
They just did.
Yeah, but did they take advantage of Tom Hodgson and Sheriff Nelson? These things have happened before.
No, because Tom sicked dogs on him.
Yeah, but there was a violent incident that happened under Hodgson as well. There was in 2001. There was also something that happened under Sheriff Nelson in '93. There was also the incident at the ICE detention center. It's not like these things aren't uncommon. It's not like they said, "Oh, this guy's real soft, so we're gonna be jerks."
As you said, we don't have video of the 2001 incident.
No, I mean you can go. I don't. We don't. Somebody might have watched it at some point. We do know that there was $1 million in damage. There was some pretty serious stuff that happened. They said it.
$1 million?
Yeah,
really?
over $1 million.
Oh.
Yeah, there's an article in by Jack Spillane back when he was at the Standard Times that you can find. Said it was over $1 million in damage. It was yeah. I think it was in 2001, 2002. The article's written.
Yikes.
Yeah. Hey, listen, man, I appreciate your call. I got another call on the line, so we got to get to it, but thank you.
Thanks, Marcus.
508-996-0500. Good evening. Hello.
Hey.
How's it going?
Now, what was the total cost of the damage plus all the manpower for this deal?
That was a good question. I probably should have asked, but I can follow up and figure that out.
Yeah. That was the reason I just kind of listened to you guys in the last one, but the reason that I was calling was I kind of lost my train of thought just now.
No problem. Do you want to call back if you pick it up, or?
Yeah, let me call you right back.
Yeah. Give me a call back. Appreciate it. Thank you. 508-996-0500. Good evening.
Hey, Marcus, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, John? How you doing?
I'm all right. So I was listening to Barry's show this afternoon, and I liked what one of the callers said, and I figured I'd kind of reiterate it.
Sure.
In your program, and he pretty much said that you kind of lose trust in Heroux when it comes to broadcasting what's going on inside the jail. You know what I mean?
Why is that?
Especially, he made it sound so relaxed, and and I was on a cruise last week, so I didn't really get to hear all that what was going on, but I did listen to the podcast on your show for Friday night, and I heard the hour that he was on, and he made it sound, hey, I'm just going to the, I'm going out to dinner, and everything's fine, this and that. And he kind of broke it down,
Yeah. I don't know if he called in and he was, all like short of breath and panicky about it. I don't think that would project a good image. I think there's responsibility to project it calmly.
Yeah, you want to be cool, calm, and collective in that situation, especially when you're speaking to the public. But at the same time, it's like, we're taxpayers, and we should be entitled to know exactly what happened inside that jail. After seeing the pictures and the images.
Well, he released it, but the thing is he released those pictures in service of being transparent, right? I mean, he wanted to do that, so I don't.
Absolutely.
He didn't have to do that.
I'm not saying that I'm not saying anything about that. What I'm saying is the way that he portrayed the riot. Okay, and yes, it is a riot. It's not a disturbance. It's not a peaceful protest. That was a riot, a flat blown riot.
Okay.
And Sheriff Hodgson even said the same thing on.
I think Sheriff Hodgson's, in a position to, I think,
I don't know, Marcus, because I think it's all water under the bridge. I don't think it's really that.
You know what? You're right, because they've been more or less amicable, but I think.
Yeah. And it was a peaceful transition. You know what I mean? It was a smooth transition. I don't think. Yeah. I think. I'm a Sheriff Hodgson supporter. I voted for him. You know what I mean? But on the same token, it's like, I think he was ready to go. You know what I mean? I think he did his time. He did his 25 years or something, or whatever it was. It was, and the people have spoken. So, yeah, okay. He put in his service, and the people wanted to see it if something else would change. But it's 4 months into his term now, and he's already got a full blown 2-house riot.
I mean, again, if this is something that happened under the other sheriff, I mean, a couple years into his tenure, either way. But if this is the same thing that happened under him and happened under the previous sheriff, it doesn't seem like it's fair to say, "Oh my God, he's already shown to be a total failure." I don't think that's fair.
And you know what though, it's not his fault that the riot occurred.
Right.
Okay. Obviously, it's the people that are inside that jail. I'm not going to call them criminals because they're still awaiting trial. Some of them are still awaiting trial, but at the same time, it's not Heroux's fault that the riot occurred.
Yeah, it's the inmate's fault.
It's the inmate's fault.
Yeah.
Now,
correct.
The way he handled it, you could say that it is his fault that it dragged out for 7 hours. You know what I mean? He could have brought in the dogs a lot sooner than he did.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like people think these dogs are like a magic solution to the problem, and I'm not entirely sure why.
Yeah, but not to cut you off, but if you had a 159-pound German Shepherd coming up your ass, what would you do?
Oh yeah, I'd be pretty scared. But I'm also not in prison causing a disturbance.
Me and you are pretty big dudes, okay?
Yeah.
And I mean,
I'd be
if
terrified.
I had a German Shepherd coming up on me, I'd be scared. You know what? Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not somebody standing trial for murder, so I don't I don't have the same sort of predispositions that person may have.
Yeah, I get it. No, it's just certain measures could have been taken a lot differently. In my opinion, you know what I mean. And
I understand, John. I got full phone line, so I got to let you go. But I appreciate the call.
I'll talk to you.
Thank you. 508-996-0500, one line open now. Good evening.
Hey, Marcus. Hey, thanks for taking my call back. I had a brain fire when I talked to you a couple of seconds ago.
All
the
good.
Question I was going to ask you was earlier today on WBSM, I heard that that Heroux called for backup to the other sheriffs, and they were already on the way, kind of like he was in the background and not knowing what even was going on. Did you hear anything about that?
I mean, he did ask for the assistance, right? I mean, he talked about that just an hour ago.
He called and said, "Hey, I need backup," and they said, "Yeah, we're already on the way."
Oh, interesting. I don't know.
That was on Barry's show earlier today.
Who said that?
Yeah, Barry's show.
I don't know who. I'll have to ask. I don't know. I think maybe they had heard about it and then decided to mobilize. I have no idea.
Doesn't that strange that if they heard about it before he even called it?
If that's true, we don't know. We don't know. Yeah. I can't corroborate that story. I don't know who it came from. Yep. But it might be something where I don't know. Maybe like Steve Souza, as superintendent, reached out to the DOC before he did. Right? They said, "Oh, this is going," because my understanding is Heroux wasn't on campus at the time. I think he was elsewhere. So it could have been someone like, okay, yeah, they're already on the way because Steve Souza called them or whatever. Somebody that's higher up in his administration already said, "Hey, we need to get the DOC in on this."
More of a bystander than the guy in charge, though. If that happens, though, right?
I mean, it's just the initial phone call, right? I don't know. Again, I don't know the specific details. I don't know how much involvement he had in the. I mean, I feel like he has the people there. I think Sheriff Hodgson had said that when he called into Barry's that day that, there's people there. They're trained to respond. And so there were decisions definitely made by Heroux not to use the dogs in this particular situation, not to send any officers forward. And so I wouldn't say that because they'd still need his okay to go forward with what was happening.
Yeah, I think they should have sent the dogs in, though. I think they're very effective, though,
Yeah. No, I understand.
And I think these guys are hearing all this talk because they got WBSM. They're listening to this right now. And they're listening to everyone saying, don't send the dogs in. And so they're saying, hey, what do we have to worry about? No one's sending any dogs in. No one's going to do anything,
Maybe. Yeah, it just you got to worry about escalation that's in a situation like that. You don't want any officers or inmates or even dogs to be hospitalized, right?
Yeah, it's just whatever, 15 guys, 17 guys. It was what, $100,000 in damage plus whatever it costs. So it's going to be a couple $100,000 in the end for these 15 some odd knuckleheads.
Yeah,
I mean, a couple of dogs could have went in there and took care of it real quick.
Yeah, that may be true. Hey, listen, I appreciate the call. I got full phone lines. Thank you. 508-996-0500. Good evening. Hello.
Yeah, hello, Marcus. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
It's like Monday quarterback in here. Everybody thinks they have the idea what the jail goes on.
It's true.
They have no idea because they never worked in the jail.
Yeah.
I've done a little bit of corrections myself down in Florida.
Right.
And when there is a riot or a standoff, you always look for backup. And I think those 17 correction officers against 70.
Yeah.
The number does not quite relate to that. Even though they could have the dogs, they could have went in there. Somebody would have got hurt.
Yeah.
Now, if you go into a fight, unless you're Bruce Lee, you're taking on 5 against 1, that's different. But when the numbers are 17 to 70, I don't like those odds.
Yeah.
And I'm not a gambler.
Yeah.
So,
right. Yeah.
So when I want to go back up, and if you ever look at anybody looks at a SWAT team or anybody that raids a house, do they go in by themselves? No.
Right.
They might have 1 or 2 people in the house. They determine the situation. They storm the house with maybe a SWAT team, okay? Now, is it active shooter, whatever situation might be? But yeah, they had weapons. But I bet you deep down, those correction officers were like happy that they had backup to go into that 70 people.
Yeah, of course.
Situation.
Yeah,
because
of course. You want
to. Yeah, they're violent. They're ready to kick some butt. They're ready to hurt somebody. I mean, I even heard things about maybe a hostage situation. Maybe if it happened a little longer.
Yeah.
Where they would have took some in. They would have took correction officers as hostages.
Yeah.
Now, as a family, any of those correction officers, they're probably happy that they got their loved one home, not being hurt because of what happened at the jail that they didn't go in. And I mean, everybody can quarterback a little bit about this can happen, this and that happen. The thing is, nobody's falling for a riot. You know, it's about the inmates itself.
Yeah.
They're the ones that caused the riot or stand down or whatever you want to call it. And they don't like change. And if the common denominator was the last riot that happened is because they were getting moved, right? So this riot again happened because they were getting moved.
Right.
These guys don't like change. They wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. They brush their teeth at 6:05. They have breakfast at 6:30.
Yeah, they got a routine.
So, a routine. And nobody's listening to the radio right now at 9:15 or 9:30 at night, especially in jail. They should be lights out, you know. But so as far as everybody talking about this riot situation, until we get all the facts, it's all theory right now. It's all about what Paul Heroux says or Sheriff Hodgson says about whatever situation might happen. Until we get all the true facts, that's when we can really decide what really happened. And yeah, we could take this riot and learn from it. Of course we can. Let's see what we can do differently next time. So if there's things that he missed, that's on him. And then he has to correct them himself the next time. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, if there's, you know,
I appreciate the call. Thank you very much.
Later.
All right. I can do one more call. We've got one line open. I can do one more call before we get to the break. Good evening.
Hey, good evening, Marcus.
How's it going?
Good. You know, I know they're going to do an incident analysis or whatever they call it, and you know, they're going to learn from this. But going just in terms of what BSM was covering, tell me if I'm wrong. I heard the new sheriff talking about some videos of dogs on the other side of a fence with inmates. Was that an old incident?
The ice incident. So the ice incident with Hodgson
the ice incident.
There was a guy that his face was pressed up against the fence. There was another officer that seemed to walk up to the fence with the dog and put it right up in the guy's face.
But those comments that the Sheriff Heroux made, that was prior to this incident, correct?
Days prior. Yeah.
Sorry?
Days prior to. Yeah.
Days prior. Yeah. So it's kind of odd that and Hodgson came on and talked about dogs, and then after this incident, you know.
Yeah, he came on. He came on. We invited him on to talk about it.
That was kind of that became kind of the controversy. But so that's you know, I'm not a corrections guy, but just to talk about how bad this can be, and I'm glad nobody was hurt.
Of course.
I just looked this up while I was waiting. So in 1971 in Attica, 33 inmates were killed, 85 were wounded.
Wow.
10 correction officers were killed, 9 by fellow correction officers, 5 were wounded.
Yikes.
And one state trooper was wounded.
Wow.
So, you know, we have to improve how we deal with these situations. I think Heroux's you know, an honest guy. He's going to try to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And I think Hodgson, whether they disagree on the use of dogs, I think, you know, we want to have improvements and reform and, you know, a safer place. So, but it's not easy. It's a tough job. My hat's off to both those sheriffs and the COs that have to deal with that stuff.
I agree. Thanks for the call, man. Appreciate it.
Okay, Marcus, bye.
All right, we got some more calls on the line. We've got one line open. Give us a call, 508-996-0500. Hello, let's go back to the phones. Good evening, you're live.
Good evening, Marcus.
What's up?
Hey. Did I hear you say that the sheriff might not have been on the premises the duration of the day when the riot occurred?
No, I didn't say the duration of the day. I said the morning.
Sometime during the duration of the day.
At the time when it happened, I don't know if he was there. I think he might have been somewhere else because Arthur Hirsch had said, who was a reporter, had said this incident happened sometime in the morning, and then shortly thereafter, Heroux was on the premises. So it could have been the case that he was there. I don't know. He could have been somewhere else. Sometimes you have business elsewhere.
I heard somewhere else on the WBSM today that somebody's seen videos of inmates planning the riot the night before.
So Heroux said that he said that they're doing the investigation of it now. Special investigations doing it, but they do believe it was planned the night before, because there were people that were normally that slept in. They were up. They had their shoes on. They were ready to go. Like there was I guess some things that they had noticed that had indicated to them that it had been planned.
I would find it concerning if there was knowledge that there was a riot being planned the night before, and that day the sheriff is not even on the premises.
No. They didn't know at the time that the riot, they didn't, on Thursday night, they didn't say, oh, we have reason to believe the riot was being planned. After the investigation, now that there's been a look back, they have determined based on some things that they saw, or that they are coming to the conclusion that it was planned before. They didn't know at the time that this was going to happen. Otherwise, they probably would have had, people, I think, responding to it more immediately if they had suspicion, because they could, the people that were involved in that, they could round them up fairly easily if that were the case. But what he's saying is they discovered afterwards that it may have been planned before.
I think that even if anybody suspected that there was a riot being planned,
they did.
If I was a sheriff and anybody even suspected there was a riot being planned, I'd have been there all day long.
I think that's true. I think that's probably true of I think Heroux would have as well. I just don't think that was the case. They didn't know at the time that there was a planned riot or planned disturbance.
The guy talking before me about what happened at Attica. To me, the sheriff did nothing to prevent it, nothing to stop it, and then at the end of the day, he goes, "Well, at least nobody got hurt. Let's look at the bright side." And
he did.
Jesus Christ! I mean, he's lucky. We're all lucky that it didn't really go south. Things can go south like they did in Attica.
Yeah, but what? How?
And then it does nobody any good to say, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Yeah, but it didn't go south, and that could have been because of the response.
Thank God.
Yeah, it could have been because of the response, though. Right. That's why.
All right, take care. Yeah, bye.
Appreciate the call. 508-996-0500. Yeah, I mean, listen, I like I said, I guess we could debate on whether or not the dog should be used or whatever, but I think there's just probably a lot to be said about not escalating a situation to the point where people or dogs or anybody gets hurt. I think that's probably the ideal outcome. What's it matter if it happens at? What does it matter if it's stopped at, an hour later or 2 hours later or 6 hours later? If it happens 6 hours later, and there's no damage, there's no harm done to officers or inmates or even dogs. I guess if people really want the dogs to be deployed, or the dogs, then I think the latter is the preferred outcome. I mean, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback all this stuff, right? Like the ICE detention, like the ICE riot or the ICE disturbance, whatever. I don't know. Picking through language is exhausting. It's probably something I should pay attention to a little bit more since I, talk on the radio. But the ICE detention center incident, there were 3 people hospitalized. There may not have been another way to do it. That might have just been, that was the protocol, the way to handle this situation. And there were 3 people hospitalized. It is what it is, right? You had to do that. You had to respond in the way you responded. People, the officers did everything by the book, and that could have been the case. You saw in this situation, nobody was hospitalized. Sort of, I guess, a little bit different circumstances, but I don't know. I don't see what function the dogs do other than like some sort of gratification about like people you don't like, really them getting, them sticking it to them. I just don't. But I mean, Sheriff Hodgins, I guess, has, he said that the dog should have been used. I don't know. I'm not versed in that. I'm not well versed in that technical knowledge. So it's tough to say. 508-996-0500. Let's take a break.
1420 WBSM is now also on 99.5 FM. You've spent all day hearing about the news. Now's your chance to react to it.
Pick up your phone and call the professionals.
Call Chris and Marcus now at 508-996-0500. Or send a text via app chat on the WBSM app. Now, back to South Coast Tonight.
Welcome back. Let's go to the phones. Good evening. Hello.
So, if the sheriff did nothing about it, wouldn't it still be going on right now?
Yeah, I suppose.
I'm a little confused here.
Yeah.
But, this is talk radio, and, none of us are experts. We're all giving our opinion, including myself. My opinion is, I think that the new sheriff did a great job. He showed calm. He showed patience and good decision-making. He, these guys are locked up. They're not going anywhere.
Listen.
These guys are all locked inside. They want to tear stuff apart. Tear it apart. In the meantime, I'm going to get all the resources I need until I'm sure I have enough guys in turtle suits so that when they go in there, you're not going to stab them with, pieces of glass and metal that you ripped apart or whatever. And they're going to go in there and they're going to take you guys over. And if it takes 8 hours, big deal, it takes 8 hours.
Yeah.
Nobody got hurt.
Right.
These people with their dogs. Do you know how many dogs get killed in encounters with criminals? These police dogs. Some of them get hurt. Some of them get killed. I personally think it's animal cruelty to send an animal in, to a bad situation like that myself.
That's what I'm saying. I really think you're putting the dog in harm's way in a situation like with 70 people. Yeah, 70 people.
Cowardice to send a dog in.
Yeah.
Where you should be going in.
Yeah,
I agree. Send my dog into a fight.
I agree.
I'd get in there and fight myself. But I think I think he showed patience, calm, and good decision making. And I think that's exactly what a person who runs a facility like that should be doing. And for the callers who are so upset about their tax dollars being destroyed in this room or whatever, I ask you, who's your concern about your tax dollars when the former sheriff was parading around the country, traveling all the time, back and forth 2,500 miles to the border, sleeping in hotels and chasing the president's coattails around for photo ops? Nobody. I didn't hear anybody complain about those dollars being spent.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure on the spending behind that, but I think that's if county taxpayer dollars were spent on that, I think that's a good point to bring up. Johnny, I appreciate the call. I got some other calls in line. I got to get to them. Thank you. 508-996-0500. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, how's it going?
Good evening, Marcus. What's going on? That's what I called you for. I want to find out how's it going to be going for the rest of the week? Are we got anything planned?
Yeah, the mayor's on tomorrow.
Oh, you got the mayor on.
Yeah, we do.
That's a biggie.
It's big get. Yeah, real excited. No, we've got. I'm looking forward to talking with Mayor Mitchell. We haven't talked to him in a little bit.
What kind of questions you got for him anyway? Anything?
We'll figure it out.
Anything special or what?
We'll figure it out. There's always a lot to talk about.
Okay, so you got the mayor tomorrow night. How about Thursday and Friday? Is McCarthy going to be available?
McCarthy will be in tomorrow.
Oh, he'll be in tomorrow. Okay.
McCarthy will also be in Friday.
He'll be in Friday.
I know Friday we have Chris Hendricks. He's going to talk about what's going on up at Beacon Hill. It's budget week, so a lot of stuff to talk about there. Thursday is the meeting on the veto overrides.
Oh, that should be interesting. That should be interesting.
So we'll be having Adam Bass will come on. We'll be responding.
The Bass man will be on.
He'll be reporting live from the city council chambers on those ballot questions.
That's good. That's good. I've heard him on the radio doing the news like Jim Phillips used to do, and I was glad to hear that Jim Phillips is still going to be doing his town share Sunday and all that sort of stuff. That's good as well.
Yeah. I think Adams going to do a really good job in the Saturday slot. Jim's great too. In Town Square Sunday's awesome.
Old-fashioned news, in other words, just the facts, man.
A true veteran. Yeah.
Let me throw one other thing in.
Sure.
What do you think today of Old Joe's announcement for the presidency? He didn't do it live. He didn't do it with people around him. And they just videotaped some things together, so he would announce for the presidency.
It is what it is. I mean, he's going to be the nominee. They're not going to do the They're not going to. The DNC already announced today they're not hosting debates. That Joe Biden's going to be the nominee, and then we'll see. It's going to be probably Joe Biden against Trump.
Do you really think that's good? A refighting of the.
I didn't think it was. I didn't think it was good the first time. I voted against it. I voted for Bernie Sanders in the primary. It didn't work out the way I wanted it to. This is where we're at.
Do you think he's going to be primaried at all?
No, I don't see Bobby Kennedy as the real challenger. And if the DNC is already saying they're not going to host debates, I think that means you've got guys like Newsom and all that in the fold that aren't going to jump in either.
I just think with the two candidates, they're too old. We need some young blood like you, Marcus.
Yeah.
Guys your
Well, I need another. Next year I'm actually eligible.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, for the first time. I'll be 35 next February.
Yeah,
so.
we need some young leadership here. To me, these guys are all old. As far as Trump goes, I don't care about what he paid to Stormy Daniels. That's between him and his wife, as far as I'm concerned. But this thing about can you find me 12,000 votes? That could be a little sticky.
I think that's a more serious in the classified documents case as well. I think if it's Trump versus Biden, Biden wins easily again. Hey, listen, I got to take this break.
Right,
I appreciate you calling in.
Take care. Yep.
Thanks so much. All right, I got one more call on the line. We'll take it after we get back from the break. Good evening. You're live. Hello. Hello.
No.
Hey, what's up?
Okay, so thank you so much for taking my call. One of the things.
Hello. Hey, call back tomorrow. You're broken up. The show's about to. Well, unless your phone broke up. I'm sorry. You can call back. I mean, if you can call back now, or if you can call back in the next few seconds, I can take you. Or you can give me a call tomorrow. Chris and I will be here tomorrow till 10. We've got Mayor Mitchell on, and we've got another guest at 8 o'clock that I just have to confirm with before I talk about it. And then we'll be on till 10. So, let's see if we can. Good evening.
Hello?
Hey.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. I'm sorry about that. I had my Bluetooth in and it doesn't always work well.
No problem.
The reason, I'm listening to some of these callers call in ragging on Sheriff Heroux, and he's only been in office for 4 months. And the fact that nobody got hurt is really important because that's a bunch of lawsuits that are being avoided.
It's true.
Coming up later, the property damage is property damage, but lawsuits can go into the millions if somebody were to hurt or killed during that uprising. And I think that a lot of people aren't really paying attention to that. They just want to rag on the guy because something happened in the jail. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think a lot of I'm not saying he's an elected official, right? So that does come with obviously the criticisms and all that stuff. But I think a lot